breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warm-up from the Elo. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family and Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by good buddy of ours, William Boor, does amazing work over at Action Network. We have to chat with him about what we are seeing in both wildcard races, the American League, where a team below 500 might be able to get into the postseason. It's been that strange of a year out there in the American League, but also things are getting good in the National League with the Padres and the Diamondbacks playing some good baseball. What we've all been seeing out the Cubs recently, so we'll dive in on that, and then we'll get you guys some thoughts and some picks for the games on Monday in the final segment. I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis for every single Monday game on the betting board as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways we'll fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, there's they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And do beggeth you, do pleadeth you, please do send in these Twitter/X questions when you do have them. That allows me to know what you want to hear a little bit more on this podcast. But we had ourselves an amazing day of baseball on Sunday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Mariners are looking to claw their way back into the playoff hunt. They get a much-needed 3-2 win over the Houston Astros. Brian Wu, he does give up 2 home runs, but they were both solo shots, so he was able to limit the damage there. Jeremy Pena, he gets home run number 14 of the campaign, and then home run numero 2 for Nick Allen. From there, the bullpen does their part with Edward Bizzardo giving you a scoreless inning. Gabe Spire, he was able to give you a scoreless inning, and then Andres Munoz closes it out in the 9th inning, and Hunter Brown gives up a pair of runs over the course of 5 innings, cranked deep by Randy Arozarena, 17th home run season, and big dumper Cal Raleigh, he gets his 13th home run season. That comes off of Mr. Bennett Sosa, who gives up a home run in his inning work. Brian Abreu, Stephen Okert, and Josh Hader, they're all able to end a scoreless inning from there. White Sox go on the road and they sweep the Tigers, who are very hot coming into the series. 7-5 the final. Sean Burke not long for this game. 4 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings. Was taken deep by Colt Keith, his 9th home run season. Bullpen from there pretty solid though, as you had Huskar Brisbane give up a run in a pair of outs out of the bullpen, but Sean Newcomb 2 1/3 innings scoreless to be able to get this save. Hagen Smith, he came in for 1 2/3 innings scoreless, and then Drew Anderson, 3 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, was taken deep by Drew Romo, 7th home run of the campaign. Then Tyler Holton, he gives up 3 runs over an inning with Montaka Murakami getting his 20th home run of the season, and then also home run number 28 of the campaign, Miguel Vargas. That comes off of Jacob Aguirre's back, who gives up that 1 run in 2 innings. Tanner Rainey, scoreless inning from there, but White Sox, they get the job done for that sweep. How about the Atlanta Braves? They are heating up 5-3. They take down the Arizona Diamondbacks. Michael Soroka against his old team. Not bad here. 2 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. From there, Taylor Clark gives up a run in 2/3 inning. Braden Garcia, 2 runs allowed in 2/3 inning, and Matt Olson took him deep for his 36th home run of the campaign. Gerard Carrillo from there is scoreless inning, and Bryce Elder, he did not look elderly. Gives up a home run over the course of 6 innings as Gabriel Moreno gets his 9th home run season. Then you also had Ilyomar Vargas get his 9th. That was off of Didier Fuentes, who gives up that home run in his inning work. Dylan Lee is scoreless inning, and then Racio Iglesias does give up a run in an inning, but good enough to be able to get the job done out there. For the Orioles, they have now taken 3 straight on the road against the Rays, who entered in this series 41-18 at home. 10-2, the Orioles get the job done here. Freddie Peralta, honestly not awful year. He only gives up 1 hit, but does give up 2 runs in 4 2/3 innings due to walks. From there, Garrett Clevenger gives up a run in a 3rd inning. Steven Matz, 5 runs allowed in 2/3 inning, and he was taken deep by Colton Cowser. 11th home run of the campaign. Joe Boyle. Boyle did not rule. He also didn't suck. 2 runs allowed in 3 1/3 innings. And Trevor Rogers continues to be really good. Gives up a home run to Ryan Velde, his 10th home run of the campaign, but 2 runs allowed in 6 innings. Alex Hoppe, Grant Wolfram, and Albert Suarez. I'll give you a scoreless inning. The Yankees get to Dylan Cease for a 4-3 win. Cease was not bad in this one. 2 runs allowed in 6 1/3 innings, punched out 10, and from there, Brandon Little gives you a scoreless inning. Paul Sewell, newly acquired, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and then Braden Fisher. 2 runs, one of which was earned, given up in the 10th inning. It's Ben Rice. Gets his 33rd home run of the campaign, but Ryan Weathers, he weathers the storm. 1 run allowed in 7 1/3 innings. David Benner does not poop the Benner. 5 outs scoreless. Tim Mill gives up an unearned run in the 10th inning, but the Yankees find a way to be able to persevere there. And the San Diego Padres, they have been white hot. I believe that there's something like 17-5 in their last 22 games. They take down the Cleveland Guardians 5-0 the final. Tanner Bybee gives up 3 runs in 6 innings as he was taken deep by Luis Rengifo, 4th home run of the campaign, and then Gavin Sheets, his 16th. A little bit later on, Tim Aaron, he gives up a home run. It was number 2 of the campaign for Jace Bowen, and then you had a home run a little bit later on off of Jake Cronenworth, his 4th of the campaign. That comes off of Logan Allen, who gives up his home run in his inning work. Matt Fessada, scoreless inning. Kate Smith out of the bullpen, scoreless inning. Casey Mize, 6 shutout innings. Jeremiah Estrada, Adrian Morejon, Yuki Matsui, they all come in for scoreless innings to be able to polish that one up. Being able to polish this one up, the Mets, who they might be able to play a little bit of spoiler here moving forward. 4-3, they take down the Washington Nationals. Christian Scott was not great Scott, but he wasn't awful Scott. 3 runs allowed in 6 1/3 innings as he was taken deep by one Mr. Ortiz. Home run number 5 of the campaign for Abimelec Ortiz. From there, you were able to get a scoreless inning out of Dan Duarte. Kodai Senga also a scoreless inning, and Nate Lavender. Perhaps all the bullpen scoreless, says you have to give up an earned run since getting called up. And Jake Irvin, 4 runs allowed in 6 innings, taken deep by Louis Torrens, 6th home run of the campaign. Max Kranick, Jake Bird, they both give the Bird for a scoreless inning, but too little too late out there. You had Paul Skeen scratch from his start for the Pirates, and the Pirates won without him. 8-3 the final. Blake Bacher in the open, he goes for 3 scoreless innings. Hunter Barker from there does give up 3 runs over the course of 3 innings, and Connor Wong was Mr. Right, 4th home run of the campaign, but Kirby Yates, Camilo Duvall, Mason Montgomery all ended scoreless inning, and Patrick Sandoval did not have it on this day. 7 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings. The Pirates go 7 of 13 with men in scoring position, and then got some really good long relief. Raymond Burgos, he comes in for 4 innings. He only gives up 1 run, so he polished things off over there. For the Kansas City Royals, they take down the Angels, who have been just flailing this year. 3-0 the final. As for the Angels, Ryan Johnson was not awful. 2 solo runs given up in 5 1/3 innings. Bobby Witt Jr., 14th of the season. Michael Massey is 11th. From there, Blake Wyman gives up an unearned run in his inning work. Michael Fulmer blasts from the pass, 5 outs of the bullpen scoreless. He's now coming out of the Angels bullpen, so in case you didn't think it could get worse, there you go. Luke Murphy, a scoreless inning, and Noah Cameron, a 1-hitter. He was absolutely fantastic in this one. Gives up 1 hit. He goes a complete game. So Royals, they get the job done out there. The fish were not fried. 7-1. They take down the Cincinnati Reds as Eury Perez continues to be pretty amazing. Does walk 5, but 6 shutout innings. Josh Eknes, Tyler Zuber from there both give you a scoreless inning. Michael Peterson, great name. Not great. They gave up his home run to Tyler Stevenson. 12th home run on the campaign, but limited to the damage. Nick Lodolo on the Lodo, 5 shutout innings. Julian Garcia goes for 2 scoreless innings, and then the Marlins runs all come in the 8th and 9th inning. TJ Antone gives up 2 runs, one of which was earned in 2/3 of an inning. And then Ron Metanaccio, 5 runs allowed in 1 1/3 innings. Pair of home runs here, Alberto Hernandez, 18th home run season. Javier Sanja, his 5th, and for the Brewers, they polish off the Dodgers for a series win out west. 6-2 the final as Tariq Skubal gives up 2 runs, one of which was earned in 6 innings. This loss is not on him. From there, Edgar Enriquez, Alex Vesia combined for an inning. Both gave up a run apiece. Kyle Hurt, 2 unearned runs, given up in 1 1/3 innings to Jack Dreyer. Pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. The Dodgers' 2 runs were solo home runs, as for Logan Henderson gives one up to Max Muncy, 24th home run on the campaign. Andy Paz a little bit later on off of the alternate Paul, his 21st of the campaign. All gives up that home run in his inning of work. For Henderson, he filled 7 innings, gives up just that 1 run. Chad Patrick, Aaron Ashby, they combined for a scoreless inning out of the bullpen of their own. And you saw this team be able to get it done by a count of 5-2 in the Athletics. So, it's been awful for them. They have been, I believe now, 11-37 in their last 48 games. But hey, they get this win. As for the Rangers, Cody Bradford gives up 2 runs in 4 innings. Was taken deep by Lawrence Butler, 11th home run of the season. A little bit later on, Zach Galoff, 14th home run of the season. That comes off of Jacob Junis, and Peyton Gray in a 3rd of an inning. He gives up a home run of his own, as it was home run number 1 of the season for Tommy White, I believe his career as well. So congratulations to him. For Junis, he gives up a pair of runs in his inning work after giving up that home run. Chase Silseth, Tyler Alexander both give you a scoreless inning. Cole Winn, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and Jacob Lopez might be rounding into form. 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. Does give up home run to Jake Berger, 21st of the campaign. Luis Medina, Hogan Ayers, they both give you a scoreless inning apiece. And then Drew Rom and Elvis Alvarado, they were both in the building. They combined for a scoreless inning of their own. You had the Philadelphia Phillies be able to complete their series win over the Minnesota Twins, 7-5 the final. For Dean Kramer, he gives up 4 runs over the course of 5 1/3 innings, as Alec Boehm took him deep, 14th home run of the campaign. From there, Cody Funderburk, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. AJ Minter and Taylor Rogers both give you a scoreless inning, but Andrew Morris gives up 3 runs over the course of his inning of work, so that was a little bit less than savory. And what was very savory for the Philadelphia Phillies. Their bullpen pitching is Tim Mazur, Ryan Kerkering, Jonathan Bullen, Yohan Duran. They all give you a scoreless inning. Andrew Painter does give up 5 runs in 5 innings, including a pair of bombs. Cody Clemens, 21st of the campaign, and then Brooks Lee is 18th, but bullpen able to save the day and get the job done there. For the Rockies, they have been the worst road team in the National League, but all of a sudden they're rolling. They've won, I believe, now 4 out of their last 5 on the road. 13-7, they take down the Giants as this was not what the Giants were looking for out of Blade Tidwell. 6 runs allowed over the course of 4 1/3 innings, and he was taken deep by Adel Amador, his first home run of the season. I think they got a cup of coffee at the big league level last year, so not his first career home run. And then Brett Sullivan, 7th home run in the campaign. That comes off of Keaton Wynn, who gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Sam Antiges, 2 runs allowed in 1 1/3 innings. JT Brubaker, no outs out of the bullpen, gives up a pair of runs. Ravier Martin, he gives up a run while getting a pair of outs out of the bullpen. And then you did have Jason Foley along Trent Harris, both give you a scoreless inning, but too little too late out there. And Gabriel Hughes was not great here. 7 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings and was taken deep by Rafael Devers, 25th home run in the campaign, but Nick Frasso, along with Parker Molzinski, Jimmy Harrigan, they all give you a scoreless inning, and Zach Ogdos was able to give you 2 shutout innings of his own. And then you saw the St. Louis Cardinals absolutely take it to the Cubbies, this by a count of 11-4. For Hunter Dobbins, 2 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, was taken deep by Pico Armstrong, 28th home run of the season, then Miguel Amaya a little bit later on off of Caleb Ferguson, 5th home run of the season for Ferguson, gives up his home run in his inning work. Gordon Gassefo gives up a run in an inning, and Luis Castillo starting around in a form, 2 shutout innings. Ever Cabrera in his first start off the injury list, this was not what he was looking for. 7 runs allowed in 3 2/3 innings. So you did not have any home runs in this one from the young gun and Mr. Joshua Baez. He actually went, I believe, 0-5 in this game, but Alec Burleson will go deep for his 21st home run in the campaign, and then a little bit later on, Jordan Walker is 24th. That comes off of Brian Rolson, gives up 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings. Aaron Savali, 2 shutout innings. Caleb Theobar gets up 2 runs in 2/3 inning. You had Trent Thornton give you an out of the bullpen scoreless, and then Carson Kelly, that would be a position player. He came in for a scoreless inning, not a place where you want to be, and if you're betting baseball right now, a place where you want to be is betting on unders here in the second half of the season, because boy, oh boy, they have been hitting. The under rate right now is 50.9%, 927 unders, 895 overs, and if math serves me correct, we've had 37 pushes along the way. Favorites on the money line hitting at 55.8%, 1,013, 804, with among those favorites a grand total of now 252, failing to cover the run line over the last 30 days in baseball. Favorites hitting more around 54.5%, 218 and 181, and among those favorites, we have now seen 55 fail to cover the run line. The under rate is sky high, by the way. We have seen 10 pushes, 217 unders, and 183 overs, so 54.25% to the under, and over the last 7 days, we've actually seen more overs than unders. Yay, verily to that. 47 overs, 45 unders, and a push along the way. And favorites, they're doing horribly right now. 42 and 48 on the money line, so we've seen 48 unders, 48 underdogs and 42 favorites be able to cash here in the last 7 days. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's where we're all getting trend-wise. Coming next, how about if we do chat it up with our good friend William Boor over at Action Network right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here, love you, Las Vegas, for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It is always a pleasure to be joined by our guy, William Boor, who's doing such great work over at Action Network, day in and day out, doing an incredible job on the baseball front. I know that he's getting ready for some foosball. Currently, we're in preseason where everything's made up and the points don't matter, much like Whose Line Is It Anyway, one of my favorite shows back in the day. But you know what? For real, it's going to be starting in a few weeks. And hey, if you do bet on the preseason, they've got you covered there as well. For William, just a wealth of knowledge that you're able to follow on the old Twitter /X at the letter W, last name Boor, Boor, all together. And William, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
Of course, Greg. Always happy to hop on and talk betting with you, but would much rather talk baseball than preseason football. So glad we're doing that today.
Oh, absolutely. I am not one of those people wanting to talk about, how are the quarterback rotations going to be for a pair of quarterbacks that are not going to sniff the field during the regular season? And we get to take a look at games that actually matter. In a few weeks, you know what, things are going to be very hot and heavy in football, but it's still baseball season, my friend. And how are you taking a look at these playoff races? Because if the season ended today, we'd be getting at least one sub-500 team into the American League playoffs, and that National League playoff hunt, because we've talked so much about the murky American League, the National League wild card is getting really good under the radar right now.
Yeah, it is. You mentioned the American League, the AL West. The Rangers would be that sub-500 team. That's really interesting. That's kind of a letdown, but at least, you'd get DeGrom. You might have some interesting stuff in the playoff that way. The thing that really stood out in the American League to me was the White Sox getting that sweep to kind of give them some separation in the AL Central. That was really big for them this weekend. But yeah, you mentioned that NL wild card. And that race has gotten sneaky good over the past 2 weeks. I mean, I feel like the Phillies are in a good spot, but that NL West, that battle is brewing right now between the Diamondbacks and the Padres is really interesting. And that one's going to probably come down to the wire, especially with both those teams being in the same division.
Oh, I totally agree with you there. And how do you take a look at those two NL West teams between the Padres and the Arizona Diamondbacks? Because I'm so intrigued by both of these teams, because for the Padres, offense was so anemic to begin the season. They've really been able to kick it up, not just one notch, but in my opinion, a few notches. And then for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they're not necessarily doing one thing great, but everything is solid enough for them. And low-key, since he joined the rotation, Brandon Pfaadt has been the most profitable pitcher in all of baseball since June 30th.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks are interesting because, like you said, they're not doing anything great. They've kind of hovered around 500 all year. They'll have like a really good 10 days where they'll go 9-1, like, okay, this team's starting to click. And then they go 3-7 over their next 10. They're just kind of weird, but also, I mean, they're right here when you look at them. They've got, a bigger run differential than the Padres. Expected win-loss, they're 2 games better than the Padres. Like, they've been good at home all year. They're playing 500 ball on the road. I mean, they're doing everything right somehow while also not doing anything great.
Yeah, I mean, it's been so wild to be taking a look at that, as our good friend William Boor does such great work over at Action Network, is joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And how about if we do take a look at one of those teams, the Padres, who are going to be facing off against the Mets? Don't look now, but the Mets have been scoring some runs as well. Noel McLean going up against Walker Buehler. Total between 8 to 8.5, and the Mets minus 120 to minus 130 favorites. Low key, it feels like all of a sudden the Mets are becoming a very sneaky team to be able to pick off someone that is making a chase for a wild card hunt. And for the Padres, they have been white hot, but they did have to deal with that rain delay in Cleveland on Sunday.
This is a dangerous spot for the Padres because of everything you just said. Their travel is going to be impacted. They're playing a Mets team that doesn't really have anything to play for, but has been playing good. McLean's throwing the ball well, has been for most of the year. I mean, especially for a team that's struggled all year. The Padres, I mean, this is a series where when you're playing a team that's 13 games under 500, you should win that series when you're competing for a wild card spot. But I think the Mets are definitely playing better than a team with their record right now. And this is a really dangerous spot if the Padres go to New York and don't come away with a series win.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I am so intrigued by this one. That is going to be a lot of fun. And then for the Arizona Diamondbacks, right now this game is off the board. It should probably be Mitch Brad versus Ranger Suarez. How do you take a look at this one? Because we talk about the Diamondbacks getting hot. They're catching a Red Sox team that has won just 2 out of their last 9 games. And after they were the hottest team in all of baseball, obviously, again, doing this without numbers up on the board. But I think this could be a good time for the Diamondbacks to be catching the Red Sox.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's hard to give a better pick or anything for this game without numbers. But if we're just kind of talking about the way I'm looking at this game, I think I do like Arizona here. They've played the Braves well over the weekend. They've been hitting the ball pretty good. I think this is and you mentioned the Red Sox struggling. I think this is a good spot for Arizona. And just as tough as it was for, the Padres over the next couple of days, this is a big series for Arizona as well. And maybe if the Mets help out the Diamondbacks a little bit, this could be a time where Arizona puts a little gap between them and the Padres.
Yep, I think that it's going to be very fascinating to take a look at those two teams on Mondays. William Boor does such great work over at Action Network. He's joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And unfortunately, those teams that squared off on Sunday Night Baseball, we will not be able to fade them on Monday. That's always one of my favorite angles. But that said, I think this one is interesting because you've got Christopher Sanchez on the bump at home against the Miami Marlins. And I don't think either of us are in the business of laying between minus 220 to minus 240 on the Phillies money line. But that said, for Sanchez, he's been so good at home this year that total is 8. And I think that's where the intrigue comes to, because for Sanchez, I think that he can hold down the Marlins. It's just a case of whether or not the Phillies do enough heavy lifting to be able to get you over.
Yeah, I think that's a tricky spot. I'm not really sure how I feel on the total in that game, but you're right as far as, I obviously like the Phillies in this spot, but I don't necessarily want to lay 240 for it. What you can do that I've been playing around with, and I'll probably end up placing sometime Sunday night, Monday morning, is a Phillies Dodgers. They're playing the Rockies money line parlay, and that gets you about even money. So I think that's a good way to take two teams that are going to be, minus 230 to minus 250. And if you can get those around even money based on whichever book you choose and prices specific to that book, I think that's a good way to get both these teams in your portfolio for the day, but also not have to lay that big price.
And with regards to that Colorado Rockies versus LA Dodgers game, I want to get your thoughts here because low-key, Tomoyuki Sugano is actually the most profitable pitcher in all of baseball. I don't think anyone would ever realize that, but for some reason, the Rockies seem to win all of his games. Tomoyuki Sugano is not a very good pitcher, in my opinion. He pitches to a lot of contact. He gives up a bunch of home runs, yet somehow, some way, weasels his way into wins. How do you take a look at weird splits like that with Sugano, of all guys, being the most profitable pitcher in all of baseball, and once again being a mammoth underdog here against the Dodgers?
Yeah, I didn't realize that. That's wild to say and to look at. But I think, when you have someone who's got 12 wins, which is crazy. And then you think when he's pitching for the Rockies, so every time he gets a win, it's, plus one, whatever. You're making up ground on every single win for him. I think that's where that number comes in. Does that give me hesitation for betting Monday night's game? Not really. Obviously, the Dodgers still have, much more star power and a much better lineup. So I'm not really putting a ton of stock into that, but it's really interesting for sure. And I may try and remember that, 5 days from now.
Tomoyuki Sugano, if you bet the money line on every Rockies start that he's been out there this season, you're up $1,436 on $100 bets. One of the most hilarious stats I've ever seen. And if you're talking about you didn't know that until now, I didn't know that until a few days ago, and that just gave me a good hearty chuckle. So we are right there together as our good friend William Boor of Action Network is joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. Paul Skeens, by the way, a bottom five pitcher in terms of making you money. So that's the way the things sometimes go in baseball. And how about if we take a look at a game that, in my opinion, is a little bit more, shall we say, evenly priced, but I think that this is going to be a fun one between the Tigers and the Pirates. For the Tigers, obviously, rough series this past weekend, but they're a team that's really gained some momentum, and for the Pirates, even though they won on Sunday, man, it's been a sinking ship for them. Right now, Framber Valdez and the Tigers, minus 115, minus 120 favorites. Want to get your thoughts here, because for the Pirates, I just don't know what to make out of this team right now, because honestly, when Paul Skeens has not been on the mound, they've been okay, but it just feels like post All-Star break, whatever can go wrong has for them.
Yeah, and 3-7 in the past 10. This team is fading fast, and it's just not working for them. I know, obviously, the Tigers got swept over the weekend. That's not what you want ever, obviously, but I think if you zoom out a little more, they are playing better since the trade deadline, which is kind of weird knowing what they gave up. But if you look at that American League wildcard picture, yes, they've still got a few teams to pass, but they're only one game back. And they're also one of the few teams in that race with a positive run differential. They're a team that has had some bad luck. They are 60-64 as we are recording, but they have an expected win-loss of 71-53. That's 11 wins left on the table. So you can look at that as, I want to back them. They are going to, start positive regression sometime soon. Or oh my gosh, everything always seems to go wrong for this team. I need to stay away. But I think as far as Monday night games concerned, they need this win. They can't lose a fourth straight. So I'm going to back the team that's in the desperate spot.
Yep, and then the Rays are in a desperate spot. They're in danger of getting a 4-game sweep at the hands of the Orioles. Now, it's going to be Shane McClanahan, it appears, making the start, as he was on the injured list for a few weeks. He's going to be making his first start since July. I believe it was either July 29th or July 30th. Want to get your thoughts here, because all of a sudden, the Baltimore Orioles are making a charge.
Yeah, they are, but give me the Rays. Give me Shane McClanahan in this spot. 3 perfect innings in his last rehab start. Obviously, that's not a one-to-one translation. Just because he was perfect there doesn't mean he's going to be perfect on Monday, but he's a strong starter. He's got enough of a track record that I want to back him to hit the ground running in his return. And the Rays, again, another team kind of in a desperate spot where I think late in the year, in August, September, you can start looking into motivation a little bit more than you do, during a typical baseball bet in June or July. This is a game the Rays need not only for the obvious part of, of where they're at in the standings, but also like getting McClanahan back and just getting that train rolling again. So I'm going to be on Tampa.
And I do think that we've got ourselves a great card on Monday. Now, we don't know what we're getting in that double dip between the Cardinals and the Reds, and doubleheaders are always hard to be taking a look at. But anything else that's really standing out to you for this Monday?
Yeah, the only one that we haven't really talked about that I like, probably the Braves. Martin Perez, 16 scoreless over his past 3 starts. Is he going to give up a run on Monday? I mean, I don't know. He's not going to put up zeros forever, but he's throwing well, and he's backed by the better offense. I trust the Braves more than the Twins. Bailey Ober's given up 3 earned runs or more in 3 of his past 4 starts. Not awful, but not stellar either. So I definitely like the Braves in that spot.
Yep, I do think that that's a good spot as well. And what's always great is being able to get you aboard, William. You're doing such amazing work over at Action Network and so much more. So all the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
For sure. You can find me on Twitter at WBoor, WBOOR. And you can find all my bets in the Action Network app at William Boor _, all one word. So be sure to check out actionnetwork.com, download the Action Network app as well. You get my bets, but more importantly, you get all the bets of my colleagues. We got every baseball game covered every day. We've got WNBA covered. I know you joked about NFL preseason. We do have that. But way more importantly than that is we are going to have a plethora of stuff for NFL regular season games, college football games, whether it's money line totals, touchdown scorers. If you want to bet it, we got it. Download the app, and hopefully let's make some money over the next few months.
Yep, college football, it is back relatively soon. The one thing with college football, I will never, ever, ever, ever call it week 0. It's opening week of college football. Week 0 makes it sound once again like it's whose line is it anyway. Everything's made up at the points don't matter. Those are regular season games. Your bets matter. The wins and losses certainly do matter. Ask Florida State a few years ago about that, but certainly we've got ourselves a lot of fun, and William, he's doing a great job covering it all. So big thanks to William for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It is always a pleasure to be joined by our good friend William Boor, who does such great work over at Action Network. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So a big thanks to William for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at June_81, and we are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, then the American League games in time order. Any interleague games, those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. And we start things off with a double dip, and we'll do these games together, 901, 902, in conjecture with 903, 904 on the card. It is the Cardinals saying they are going to be on the road against the Cincinnati Reds. We know that in game 1, Rhett Lauder is going for the Reds, and the rest of the doubleheaders off the board. So they really didn't do us a lot of favors there. Now, the expectation is that Andre 3000 Pallante is going to be going for the Cardinals in game one, and whatever game Pallante pitches in, he's going to be a favorite. Like, against Red Lauder, I'd be willing to lay up to a -110 with the Cardinals plus 112 or better on the Reds, and then 9 or less to the over, 9.5 higher to the under. If it's going to be more of the bullpen game that we're expecting in game two, closer to probably about -132, maybe even as high as -135, depending upon the circumstance. But Andre Pallante should be pitching in one of these games, and I'm willing to bank on him. Like, Andre Pallante is not getting a lot of strikeouts, but he's holding down the fort. 3.46 ERA, 3.73 fielding dependent, only about 6.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 0.7 home runs, 2.8 walks per 9 innings. And when it comes to the way that he's been able to pitch away from home, he's been pretty stellar. 2.55 ERA away from home, 4 home runs allowed in 49 and a third innings. Flip side, you've got a guy in Red Lauder that I just really don't want to be invested in because he's got a 5.15 ERA. The fielding independent is a little bit lower at a 4.50, and he's giving up 1.1 home runs, 3.8 walks per 9 innings, but only 7.3 strikeouts per 9. You've got a pair of bullpens that overall for the season have been shaky, but the Reds bullpen has been far more shaky. A lot of bullpen use over the weekend. They really melted down in that game against the Miami Marlins yesterday. You've got TJ Antone, who's still rocking a sub-350 ERA, but he's coming off of a relatively rough weekend. Emilio Pagan has actually been halfway decent coming off the injury list, but that's a guy that I have absolutely no faith in whatsoever. You're going to be having a lot of mix and match guys coming out, and for Julian Garcia, they used him for 35 pitches yesterday. Rod Marinaccio was used for 45 pitches. This is a relatively taxed bullpen, and then you've got Pierce Johnson with over a 4.50 ERA. Now, when it comes to the lineup, you've got some good matchers with Sal Stewart leading the way with 26 home runs. Additionally, Elly De La Cruz and JJ Bleday have both been able to give you 20-plus home runs. Now, for Bleday, he's hitting less than a 230 with the average, but on-base percentage is more in that neighborhood, about a 330, and then Elly De La Cruz gives you a double-figure amount of stolen bases, 350-plus on-base, but you still have to have a lot of qualms with that bottom fold. The guys like DJ Friedel, Cabrian Hayes, Navoli Marte, they have all done nothing whatsoever. They've actually been able to get some good production out of Tyler Stevenson at the catcher spot. He's hitting now at 250 for the team, but Eugenio Suarez, even though he gives you some bombs right now, he's hitting about a 205 as well. And for the St. Louis Cardinals, Mr. Baez had 3 home runs in his MLB debut. Didn't quite duplicate that yesterday, but it's a Cardinals team that is really mashing when they're away from home. Like, for the St. Louis Cardinals, they're actually dead last in the National League in terms of run creation at home with about 3.8 runs per game. Away from home, they're a top 4 team with about 5.2 runs per game. And Jordan Walker, no doubt about it, he's been the headliner for the team, giving you 23-plus home runs. He's been hitting in the neighborhood about 280, but Baez, he had that big performance. He's looking like a very promising prospect for this team. Additionally, you've been able to have Ivan Herrera move the line, give you a 360 on base. JJ Weatherholt, Alec Burleson, both of these guys have given you 16-plus home runs, with Burleson now up to 21 bombs, between a 350 to a 355 on base. Still need a little bit more from some of these guys at the bottom of the fold. Blaze Jordan is showing some upside, but still less than a 300 on base. Jimmy Crooks, guys like this. And for the Cardinals, they do have their own bullpen issues as well. You've had Matt Savanson be absolutely alpha whenever they've tried to hit him out there. Ryan Stanek, Caleb Ferguson, they've got ERAs that are above a 4, but Justin Brule, Goran Gasefo, these are guys give you a sub 330 ERA. You've got a little bit more depth there, and I think that Pallante gives you a good start. So against Lauder, I'd be willing to lay up to -110 with them. Against bullpen games / Chase Petty, closer to -135. Either way, 9 or less, looking at the over 9.5 or higher. The under and for Lauder would need a +112 or higher to be able to back him against Pallante. And then for 903, 904, this should be Quinn Matthews versus Chase Petty. I'm not going to go too far into this one because this is the game of mystery, but if you do get Quinn Matthews against Petty / a bullpen game, I will be saying the Cardinals here as a slim favor once again at a -108. Again, this will be another one of these circumstances where a 9 or less, I'll be in on the over, a 9.5 or higher to the under. But that said, if you do indeed get Quinn Matthews here, I do think that there's a little bit of upside with him, as he's been able to do a relatively rock solid job at the minor league level. He's already gotten 1 cup of coffee at the big league level. In his first start, gave up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. He did allow 6 hits in that span, but over at AAA Memphis, it's the Independence League. He's been giving up a lot of walks, 5.5 walks per 9 innings, so you're going to need the bullpen at the ready here, but getting about 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, and assuming that we do get Petty, who's been mostly coming out of the bullpen this year for the Reds, but they've had him do a spot start or two. 4.83 ERA, 574 fielding dependent. This could be a game where I do look at more of a 9.5 or less to the over, a 10 or higher to the under, depending upon the circumstances. Initially, I went 9. As I'm thinking about it, I do think that for Matthews against Petty, 9.5 to less to the over, 10 or higher to the under. Again, we are waiting on numbers on this one, but if you do get Matthews against Petty / a bullpen game, -107 or better, looking at the Cardinals, +109 or better, looking at the Reds. And then again, with the Palante versus Lauder game, 9 or less the over, 9.5 or higher the under. Again, Cardinals, small favorite. Tried my best to be able to keep that one straight. Now we get into more of the normal games. 9:05, 9:06 on the card. The Marlins are going to be on the road against the Philadelphia Phillies as Cadiz for Sanchez is on the bump for the Phils, and Jansen Junk hopes to not live up to his name for the Miami Marlins. Marlins Mondo underdogs here, +198 to a +205 underdog. Meanwhile, between -219 to -240 on the Philadelphia Phillies, 8 to 8.5 is the total on the 8. Over is -120, the under is even on the 8.5. Under is -120, over is even money, and if you're looking to lay run half with the Phillies, that's between -105 to a -110. I personally would rather have an 8 to the over rather than an 8.5 to the under, because this is a Phillies team that feels like they're very much rounding into form. And all season long, they've been a much better team in terms of hitting at home rather than away from home. About 4.8 runs per game at home, closer to 4.1 runs per game when they've been away from home. Kyle Schwarber had a pair of home runs in that Field of Dreams game. He's up to 37 plus bombs. He's been able to give you about a 360 on base. Obviously, Bryce Harper, 375 on base. He's been solid. Alec Bohm is starting to give you a little bit of something. He's been awful all season long. That's good. Bryson Stott is up to a 340 on base. Luis Rise is hitting above 300. All of a sudden, the bottom of the lineup is starting to give you something. Brandon Marsh has been consistent, hitting at 275. Phillies still do have a little bit of a, shall we say, teeter-totter-ish bullpen, but when you've got Christopher Sanchez out there at home, specifically, that's when you really don't have to worry. He's got a 254 ERA, his strikeouts per 9 rate hovering in the neighborhood about 10 to 10.5. He's only been giving up about 0.7 to 0.8 home runs per 9 innings, but that's just completely heightened up when he's at home. 141 ERA at home, 0.3 home runs, 2.3 walks allowed per 9 innings with about 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has been absolutely masterful at home. Away from home, that ERA darn near triples to about like a 407, and then on the flip side for Jansen Junk, he does a nice job in terms of not giving out a lot of walks, but this is not a guy that's giving you a whole heck of a lot of swing and miss as well. And the Marlins as a team, they've got an ERA that's darn near a full point higher when they're away from home rather than at home this season. 441 ERA, about a 426 fielding dependent. Again, 6.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's giving up 1.2 home runs and about 2.6 walks per 9 innings, but that ERA does go to a 5.35 when he's away from home, and away from home, he has been giving up over 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. And for the Miami Marlins, it's been a mix and match lineup. They've been averaging about 3.8 to 3.9 runs per game ever since the All-Star break, because, I mean, they've got base stealers on the team. Otto Lopez, Xavier Edwards, Esteri Ruiz, Jacob Marcy. They've all been able to give you at least 18 stolen bases, and for Lopez, he's sitting above a 300. For Marcy, he's not giving you really a heck of a lot of on base, but Esteri Ruiz about a 375 on base, but not a lot of boom with this team anymore because they trade away Liam Hicks at the trade deadline. You've had Roberto Hernandez now be able to supply 18 home runs, and he's been hitting only about a 230, but I mean, he's been able to give you a little bit of pop there, but these guys like Leo Menes, Grant Pauly towards the bottom of the fold are really not giving you anything whatsoever. The entire catcher spot is now an issue, and with the Miami Marlins, it is a bullpen that overall for the season has been about league average in terms of ERA. It's been rough for them recently. We've seen John King regress. Kelvin Fauché, Pete Fairbanks are all guys who are now supplying over a 3.55 ERA. Michael Peterson, great name. Me and Josh Eknes have been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA, but a lot of the long guys have just been failing you. William Kepner is right now dealing with a bit of injury along with Anthony Bender, and Pete Fairbanks. He's just absolutely terrible, and for the Phillies, Yohan Duran, he's been obviously dominant for this team, but we're starting to see regression with Orion Kirkring. Like the pickup of Brooks Raley, he's been able to give you sub 3.50 ERA. They're dealing with the injury to Caleb Gillian. That's probably a good thing, and Jonathan Bolin, sub 3.50 ERA. Don't think that the Phillies have to dive too deep into their bullpen. I think that they slug their way to victory. I like the 8 over because I think that they get to Junk. I don't want to be betting on Junk, but I'm in on the Phillies on the run line, willing to go to -128 there. I do like the over, semi-total at an 8.3. 907, 908 on the card. The Padres are going to be on the road against the Metropolitans. Noah McLean is on the bump for the Mets, and Walker Buehler is on the bump for the Padres. Padres do find themselves as a mild underdog here. You're going to be catching them between +102 to a +115, and between -120 to -130 is that number on the Metropolitans. 8 to 8.5 is the total on the 8 overs between -110 to a -125. Unders between +105 and -110. Mostly seeing 8.5s with the under at a -115, overs at a -105, and Personally, I would rather take an 8 to the over rather than an 8.5 to the under for Noah McLean. He does have some less than favorable home and road splits. He overall for the season has been able to get about 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, gives up just a hair above 3 walks per 9, 3.42 ERA, but that ends up to a 4.15 ERA at home, 1.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings, 2.70 ERA, 0.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings away from him. But don't look now, but the Mets are averaging about 4.9 runs per game in the 21 games since Juan Soto went down with an injury. Prior to this, they were averaging less than 4.2 runs per game, so the offense has been better. And for the Padres, entering into the day on Sunday, averaging about 5.3 runs per game since the All-Star break. That is a top 5 mark in all baseball, and while it shows that for Walker Buehler, perhaps there's a little bit of positivity doing for his ERA. Right now, it's rocking a 4.88 ERA with a 4.29 fielding dependent. It does elevate when he's away from home, 5.47 ERA when he is away from home. And, well, without question, this is a Padres bullpen that's very solid. You've got Wandy Peralta, Jeremiah Estrada, Bradley Rodriguez, Audrey Marhoma, and then you've got Mason Miller at the back end. I'll give you a sub-350 ERA. I do think that Buehler is going to do some damage here. Now, for the Padres, a big reason why their offense has been so much better. I mean, Jackson Merrill from out of nowhere since the All-Star break, hitting above a 325 with power. That's great. Xander Bogaerts continues to be about as useful as a poopy-flavored lollipop, but Fernando Tatis Jr., over a 350 on base. He's actually got more home runs since the All-Star break than he did before the All-Star break. Luis Campusano has been able to give you something at the catcher spot when he's been out there. He's been hitting above a 300 as well. For Manny Machado, still not hitting for a lot of average, but 23-plus home runs. That's passable there. And for the New York Mets, you're not going to have that one guy in the lineup that's going to strike fear in you. That would be Juan Soto, who's currently on the injury list, but you've got a lot of mix and match guys that are giving you in the neighborhood of, we're going to call it 11 to 14 home runs. Carson Bench, Marcus Semien, Francisco Lindor, and obviously a small sample size, Francisco Alvarez, Bo Bichette. These guys have been very solid. Mark Vientos is currently out of the fold. That's not a bad thing for them, but I mean, for Bench, he's hitting about a 275. You've had Mr. Alvarez give you about a 340 on base. Lindor seems to be picking it up a little bit, and for the Mets, they traded away pretty much their entire bullpen at the trade deadline. So now you've got the mix and match guys. Jeffrey Yan has been relatively solid, needs to stop jumping after every single strikeout. But you know what, Dan Duarte, he's been relatively okay. Kodai Singh in a small sample size coming out of the bullpen has actually been fine as well. I don't know if that's going to be a mainstay. But that said, I do think that the Mets get to Walker Buehler here and get the job done. After the Padres, they had a little bit of a janky day with the rain delay on Sunday. So I'm going to take the Mets on the money line, set it out at -139, and like that 8 to the over. So my total at 8.2, 909. 910 on the card. The Dodgers are going to be on the road against the Rockies. Tomoyuki Sugano is on the bump for the Rockies, and Blake Snell goes for the Dodgers. Dodgers find themselves as Mondo favorites here, anywhere between -219 to -245. Between +195 to +$2 is that number on Colorado. 11 to 11.5 is the total on the 11.5. Under is -120. The over is even on the 11. Over and under both at -110, and I like the under. I set my total at a 10.7. Tomoyuki Sugano is your most profitable pitcher in all of baseball right now. Just absolutely wild what we've seen. If you bet $100 on every Tomoyuki Sugano start, you're up $1,436. Just insane. Like right now he's got a 4.43 ERA, rocking a 5.41 fielding independent, 1.9 home runs, a little bit over 2 walks per 9 innings. He's actually been better at home though. 3.93 ERA, 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Now I can't quite get there on the money line with the Colorado Rockies here, but I mean, right now we're seeing run line prices where if you take a run half with the Rockies, +135 I'm seeing. If I can get above a +125, I am in on that run line. And even able to get +2.5, I'm going to just roll with a +1.5. And Blake Snell looked really good in his first start coming off the injury list. This is only going to be his third start of the season, but last time out, he had 10 plus strikeouts. He was able to throw 6 innings. Really liked what I saw there. And for the Dodgers, this has been about a league average bullpen in terms of ERA. Edwin Diaz is a massive problem for the team right now, but you do have a few mix and match guys. Alex Vesia, Edgar Enriquez, Jack Dreyer, who've been able to supply a sub 325 ERA, but I mean, they've been dealing with a Will Klein injury. Kyle Hurd has not been good for the team. He's starting to regress. They're still without Blake Trinan as well, so you do have some issues there. And then for the Dodgers with their lineup, since July 1st, they're averaging about 3.95 runs per game. That is a bottom 7 mark in all of baseball. Now, Shohei Ohtani continued to do Shohei Ohtani things, over 25 home runs, 385 on base, so he's been fine. And Max Muncy, too. I mean, 340 on base, 24 home runs. 80 Paz has been able to give you 21 home runs. Freddie Freeman at the top, but these guys like Kyle Tucker and Mookie Betts towards the bottom, and Betts has been a little bit better recently. They've been a little bit rough. Teoscar Hernandez really doesn't give you a ton of on base either, and with regards to this one for the Colorado Rockies, you do have a solid lineup that has a bunch of guys that are moving the line, as we saw them put up a 13 spot yesterday. Jake McCarthy, Cole Carrick, both hitting above a 290. Troy Johnson, more in that neighborhood, about a 285. Hunter Goodman has been a good man, but I did drop this total a little bit because he has been out of the fold the last few days for the team, hitting for over 30 home runs, so that very much needs to be accounted for. His understudy Brett Sullivan actually went deep yesterday, but less than a 285 on base out of him. Zach Veen has actually been able to give you a pair of home runs over the last week or so, but Jordan Beck has been useless at the bottom of the fold along with Ezekiel Tovar, and does need to be pointed out the Rockies have been one of the worst bullpens in all of baseball. Got these guys like Jimmy Harriet, Juan Mejia, Nick Frazo, who all have an ERA above a 5. Jordan Romano in a Rockies uniform has actually not been bad. I'm just waiting for the regression to happen there. But that said, I'm going to be in on the under. I trust in both of these starters. Semi-total at 10.7. Don't want the running money line of the Rockies, but plus 125 or better, I'm going to take a run half with the Rockies. 9-11, 9-12 on the card. It is the Orioles, and they are going to be on the road against the Rays, as Brandon Young goes for the Orioles, and Sugar Shane McClanahan goes for the Rays. The Rays do find themselves as a favorite between minus 150 to minus 163, and between plus 132 to a plus 143. That number on Baltimore, 7.5 to 8 is the total on the 7.5. Over is minus 120, the under is even. On the 8, under is minus 120, over is even, and I'm going to take a shot here on the over. I said I told it at 8.2. This is going to be Shane McClanahan's first start here in the month of August. And I mean, he's been rock solid this year. 3.09 ERA. Swing and miss stuff has been a little bit down with about 8.2 to 8.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. But he's keeping the ball in the yard, giving up less than 0.75 home runs per 9 innings. But that said, he goes up against an Orioles team that all of a sudden has been able to get hot. And you do have a pitcher contact guy here in Brandon Young. 3.33 ERA, 1 home run allowed per 9 innings. But also just 7.4 strikeouts, 3.2 walks per 9 innings. So I think that this is an advantageous spot for runs. And for McClanahan, he did go 3 shutout innings in his last minor league rehab start, but you have to wonder how much depth he's going to be able to lend. And for the Rays, they didn't get a full 5 innings out of Freddie Peralta. That's a little bit of an issue. They've been utilizing Steven Matz as a little bit of a long guy with a 6 ERA. They did save more of their trustworthy bullpen guys with Joe Boyle throwing for over 3 innings yesterday. So that helps out with having these guys like Kevin Kelly, Brian Baker, Cam Boozer, who've been able to give you a sub 325 ERA, all good to go. And Garrett Clevenger has been better recently. It's been an up and down season for him. Overall a 4 ERA, but they also brought in Tyler Wells at the trade deadline, ironically enough, from the Orioles to be able to hold down the fort. And for the Orioles, this has been a top 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA since June 1st, and they used up more of their less than trustworthy guys like Alex Hoppe and Grant Wolfram yesterday. That means that Yanier Cano, Uncle Rico Garcia with a sub 350 ERA, they're going to be good to go in this game. Andrew Kittredge overall for the season has a 362 ERA. He had an atrocious start to the season. He has been much better here down the stretch. Cam Sanders, he's got a 6 ERA. It's not great to say the least. I actually do think that there might be a little bit of upside with him. He's showing a little bit of promise here in an Orioles uniform, and for the Orioles, it can be a little bit of a hit or miss team. You're going to need more of these guys to be able to hit for average, because it's nice that Gunnar Henderson has been able to give you 20 plus home runs, but also, at just a 303 on base, you've got these guys like Leody Taveras, Kobe Mayo, along with Carlos Narvaez, Colton Cowser, hitting a 230 or lower, so that's been a little bit of an issue, but Christian Encarnacion Strand was able to go deep over the weekend. He's been relatively solid for the team. Pete Alonso, 24 plus bombs, 360 on base. Jackson Holiday, all of a sudden give you something with about a 340 on base, and then for the Rays, you've got Junior Caminero, obviously carrying the mail for the team, about a 365 on base, over 30 home runs, but then Jonathan Aranda, Yandy Diaz, 15 plus home runs piece, both give you a 370 on base. Chandler Simpson really doesn't draw a lot of walks, but it's above a 300. He's giving you over 20 stolen bases. Johnny DeLucas hitting a 260. Nick Fortes moves the line. They picked up Liam X at the trade deadline, so I do think that you're going to be able to get some scoring here. Semi-total at 8.2, like the over, and I know that the Rays have the most wins at home of any team in the American League. I'm going to take another shot on the Orioles, plus 140 or better. Put me in on their money line. 913, 914 on the card. The Athletics are going to be on the road against the Royals, as we do know that it's going to be Mason Barnett going for the Athletics. Right now for the Royals, the betting board reads to be determined, so this is a game that is presently off the board. Now, when I was checking FanGraphs, it was looking like Michael Wacha was going to be getting the start for them, and if you do indeed get Mr. Wacha going up against the Athletics, I set this at a minus 157 for the Royals, so willing to lay up to minus 156 there, plus 158 or better, looking at the Athletics, and then made a total of 9.3, so 9 or less in on the over, 9.5 or higher the under. For Michael Wacha, if you do indeed get him in this start, and if you don't get Michael Wacha, this turns into like a minus 115, minus 120 for the Royals, because that bullpen, it is last in the American League outside of the Athletics. The Athletics are just awful with their bullpen, like holy crud. North of a 6.75 ERA for the Athletics bullpen since June 1st. Hogan Harris and Luis Medina have been able to give you a sub 4 ERA. That's about the only good thing that I could say about them. Elvis Alvarado's been awful. You now have Jose Suarez on the injured list. Like that Junior Truer guy that they were throwing out there, they sent him back to the minors. He posted up an ERA of a 33, and I'm not even kidding when I say that. But getting back to Michael Wacha, and he's been a wily veteran who's been able to do a solid job. 3.46 ERA, 4 fielding dependent. Not going to get a lot of strikeouts with 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but hey, 1.1 home runs, 2.4 walks allowed per 9 innings, and when he's been at home this far this season, that drops to a 2.91 ERA, so he's been rock solid there. And for the Athletics, you're without Nick Kurtz along with Shea Langoliers, your 2 main home run hitters, and that's a big reason why we've been starting to see a few more unders in their games, even in the games out there in Sacramento. Good news is they've been able to win a few more games here recently, so yay verily to that. And then whenever he's been out there, Tyler Soderstrom's been solid, but he was missing all weekend long. That means that Zach Aloff, who's got 14 home runs, he's the highest home run hitter among their healthy players. And then you've got these guys like the wrong Max Muncy, Lawrence Butler hitting below a 215 right now. Jonah Heim has been able to give you a little bit of power, but at 277 on base. Henry Bolte's been able to bat at 270, so that's been solid along with Alika Williams, but have a lot of concerns there. And then on the flip side for the Royals, this has been a team that's been dead last in the big leagues in terms of run creation away from home. Significantly better at home. They're more of a 500 team at home because they move the fences in at Kauffman Stadium. 4.7 runs per game at home is actually a top 12 mark in all of baseball. Bobby Witt Jr. has been able to give you the 30-plus stolen bases, and he's been able to do a nice job, give you a double-figure amount of homers. Salvador Perez, post-All-Star break, has 6-plus home runs, but he's still not giving you any sort of on-base whatsoever. Carter Jensen, he's down below a 300 on base, has been able to give you 15-plus home runs, but Jack Aglione hitting a 270. He's been able to now give you over 20 home runs. You're getting back Michael Massey, who's been able to about a 270. Nick Lofton, about a 285. So we've got an interesting circumstance in this one because if you do get Mason Barnett against Michael Wacha, for Barnett, he was actually a relatively okay starter at the minor league level, but when coming up to the big league level, it's been awful. Again, a lot of those appearances for Barnett have happened at home, and the home and road splits for the Athletics pitching are just absolutely awful. 6.16 ERA, 6.69 fielding dependent, 2.6 home runs, 4.7 walks per 9 innings, but again, facing off against the Royals here. So 9 or less than on the over, 9.5 or higher, the under, and then with Mason Barnett, and the Athletics need at least a plus 158 to take a shot there. Minus 156 or better, looking at the Royals. 9.15, 9.16 on the card. It is the Tigers. They're going to be on the road facing off against the Pirates, as we do know that Framber Valdez is going to be on the bump for the Tigers. This should be Carmen Bolzinski in some form of capacity for the Pittsburgh Pirates. It might be as an opener, but he should be pitching in this game. And right now for the Tigers, they do find themselves as a slim favorite between minus 115 to a minus 120, even money to plus 105. Then around Pittsburgh, it is a total over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. Set the Pirates here at a minus 103. I'm going to be one to trust in them. Now the Tigers have had a really nice turnaround recently, but they did get cooled off over the weekend. They get swept by the Chicago White Sox, a White Sox team that has been just so surprising. And for Framber Valdez, he's still doing a really nice job in terms of keeping the ball in the yard. At 4.26 ERA is a byproduct of the fact that he's getting his fewest strikeouts of his career. 7.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, 0.9 home runs, 3.4 walks per 9 innings, relatively equal home and road splits as well. And then for Carmen Bolzinski, he spent a lot of the year coming out of the bullpen. He was a starter, then he was coming out of the bullpen, and now they're trying him out there as a starter once again, but has went 3 innings or fewer in pretty much all of his appearances ever since the All-Star break. So I'm not expecting a lot of length here. He does a nice job keeping the ball in the yard. He's actually almost a clone of Framber Valdez. 0.7 home runs, 3.2 walks per 9 innings, 7 strikeouts per 9. Now the Tigers are going to have the bullpen advantage. Since June 1st, they've been a top 7 team in terms of bullpen ERA with having Ty Madden out that bullpen, give you a sub 3 ERA. We're starting to see a little bit of regression with Kyle Finnegan. His ERA is above a 3.25. Kenley Jansen has actually been okay. I only say this with Kenley Jansen. In high pressure situations, he's always awful. In low pressure situations, he is like the most lockdown guy ever, and right now the Tigers aren't in high pressure situations, so he's been very good. Tyler Holton, Jacob McGee's back, have been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA, but keep in mind, both of those guys threw over 25 pitches yesterday, so they're knocked out of the fold, so Tigers are a little bit tuckered out with their bullpen. And then for the Tigers, you've obviously had Dylan Diggler be incredible. He's been able to give you 24 plus home runs, hitting about a 260. Cole Keith moves the line as well. Hinglaber Torres hitting at 270. For Torres, Kevin McGonigal, they're both above a 375 on base. Spencer Torkelson, need more on base out of him, but 20 plus home runs. Max Clark has been relatively solid since getting called up to the big league level, and getting back Javi Baez, that no doubt has been very solid for this team. Having Gleyber Torres out there as well, and that's been big. And on the flip side of things, you have a Pirates team that is still number one in the big leagues in terms of run creation at home, a little bit over 5.4 runs per game. Brandon Lau has been able to get loud. He's been able to give you 24 home runs. He's hitting now in that neighborhood about a 250. And then you've got so many guys that are just finding a way on base, like Rafael Flores Jr., Jake Magnum are both hitting at 300 whenever he you've had Nick Gonzalez out there. He was out of the fold yesterday, but he's been hitting darn near 300. You get a 375 on base out of Esmeralda Valdez, along with Brian Reynolds, Spencer Horwitz, who just came off the injury list. The entire lineup, aside from like Henry Davis at the catcher spot, has been pretty good. And for the Pirates, I do think that the bullpen is going to be a bit better moving forward. You pick up Luke Weaver along Kirby Yates at the trade deadline. I don't think much of Camilo Doval at this point. Gregor Soto's obviously been washed, but they should be getting back Evan Sisk for this bullpen, who's been relatively solid. Mason Montgomery has been a little bit up and down, and Yohan Ramirez, he's on the paternity list, but should be good to go for this series. So semi-total at 8.3. I like the over, and for the Pirates, a pick 'em price or better. I'm in on their money line, set them at -103. 917, 918 on the card. The Diamondbacks are going to be on the road against the Red Sox as Alec Gamboa is going to be getting the start for the Red Sox, and it is Mitch Bratt on the bump for the Diamondbacks. We did not know that Gamboa was going to be pitching until late in the night on Sunday, so this is a game that's completely off the board, but I've got my handicap. A 9 or less, I'm going to be in on the over. A 9.5 or higher, I do like the under, and with the Red Sox, set them at a -156. I'm willing to go up to a -155 on the money line, plus 157 or better. Going to be taking a look at the Diamondbacks. Now, it's probably going to be Brian Bayo, who's going to be coming in bulk relief, and for Gamboa, he's a guy that can go multiple innings. He's actually posted up a sub-2 ERA, so that's relatively solid. And you look at Brian Bayo, assuming that he is going to be getting a little bit of a bulk roll, and he'd be in line for that. The last time he pitched was on the 9th of August. He's actually been remarkable coming out of the bullpen. Like, these splits between him being a starter and coming out of the bullpen are just absolutely wild. As a starter this year, for Mr. Brian Bayo, 10.35 ERA, and he's giving up over 2 home runs per 9 innings. Out of the bullpen, 0.75 ERA, 1 home run allowed in 48 innings. I don't know what sort of sorcery is in that bullpen, but they've been great. And the Red Sox overall are currently number 1 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen area. Now, they're without Garrett Woodlock. That hurts the team a little bit, and obviously, it was a little bit mix and match yesterday, but they had Mr. Burgos eat up like 4 innings from that bullpen. So, all these guys are going to be locked, loaded, ready to go. Aroldis Chapman, Eric Miller, Teron Guerrero, Giovanni Morin. They are all supplying a sub-3.25 ERA. So, I actually do think that the Red Sox are in fine shape here, and when it comes to Mitch Bratt, he's had a few relatively okay starts recently for the Arizona Diamondbacks. He does seem to be rounding in form, but he's not as good as that 3.74 ERA would indicate, in my opinion. 5.31 field independent, 6.7 strikeouts, 5.1 walks allowed per 9 innings, and has only gotten more than 4 strikeouts in 1 out of his last 5 starts, so I do have to have my trepidations there. Now, for the Arizona Diamondbacks, it's actually a pretty solid bullpen. They DFA Paul Sewell, which I think is a good move. Gerard Carrillo, along Taylor Clark, Brayden Garcia, Jonathan Loaiska. These have all been guys give you a sub-350 ERA. Even Juan Mario has been solid. Now they're kicking the tires on Dennis Santana and a few others, so that's not necessarily great, but still, it's been a relatively good bullpen, and for the Diamondbacks, right around about a league average team in terms of run creation, even though they've been one of the lesser teams in terms of hitting home runs. Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, he's been able to give you 20 home runs, and he's up to about a 250. You've got Nolan Arenado with 20 bombs. Actually, Marte is up to 21 home runs now, but that said, for Arenado and Corbin Carroll, a combined 38 home runs, both of these guys hitting between about a 242, 250. Nobody else on the roster has more than 10 home runs. Now, that said, you've got a lot of guys who've been able to do a pretty solid job in terms of moving the line and getting on base, like Geraldo Perdomo has been able to give you about a 355 on base. You've been able to get really good production as well out of Guillermo Vargas, hitting about a 270, not a lot of walks, but Ryan Waldschmidt is hitting a 275. You've had a 300 average out of Gabriel Moreno, so these mix and match guys have been solid. Still need more out of these guys like Tim Taywa towards the bottom of the fold, but do like what I'm seeing there. And then on the other end of things, you've got a Red Sox team that post All-Star break, they're averaging over 5 runs per game. They have been one of the best offenses in all of baseball in this time span, as Caleb Durbin has really been able to turn over a new leaf over the last 60 days. He's hitting above a 275. Obviously, Wilson Contreras is carrying the mail for the team, 24 home runs and nearly a 390 on base, but Wilder Abreu, so Don Rafael, they've been top 10 players in terms of home runs ever since the All-Star break, with Abreu now up to 22 bombs, about a 325-ish on base. You've been able to get quite a bit of production recently out of Andrew Marisserio, who's giving you about a 330 on base, about Satake Yoshida, 350 on base. So I do think that the Red Sox, even with it being Gamboa, most likely Bayo, they should be able to be a relatively sizable favorite here. 9 or less in on the over, 9.5 or higher the under. For the Red Sox, willing to lay up to -155 there, plus 157 or better. Looking at the Snakes, 919, 920 on the card. The Braves are going to be on the road against the Twins, as Bailey Ober goes for the Twins, and Martin Perez is on the bump for the Bravos, and the Bravos do find themselves as a very slim favorite here. You're going to be laying in that neighborhood of -118 to -130, between plus 103 to a plus 115. That's your number on Minnesota. Mostly seeing 8.5 on the total. I saw a few straight 8s before, but on the 8.5 over is -115. The under is -105, and even with it going from 8 to 8.5, I do like the over. I did set my total at an 8.8 for Martin Perez. He is a guy that is doing for a lot of aggression. The overall ERA is actually quite sterling for him, as right now he's been able to supply an ERA in that neighborhood of a 296, but a 419 fielding dependent, 6.8 strikeouts, 3.6 walks per 9 innings. But he is supported by a bullpen that has been oh so magnificent this year for the Braves. They are number 2 in the National League in terms of bullpen area. You've had the Dillons, Dylan Lee, Dylan Dodd, along with Racy Iglesias, all do a nice job supplying with regards to a bullpen ERA, a sub 350. Additionally, even someone like a Victor Medeiros has been able to do a relatively solid job for this unit as well. They are dealing with the injury to Robert Suarez, so that's a big reason why they went from number 1 to number 2 in the National League in terms of bullpen area, but these guys are really doing a nice job putting it together. And on the flip side, for the Minnesota Twins, they do bring in AJ Minter, Jeff Hoffman, that helps out the bullpen. But still, you look at the overall season numbers, it's been a bottom 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA. I still don't have a lot of faith in a lot of these mix and match guys like Andrew Morris, Yandres Gomez have been better, but still in the biggest of spots, I think that they might poop the bed a little bit. And you're probably going to need quite a bit of the bullpen, because I just have not been bullish on Bailey Ober this year either. For Ober, he is seeing a massive dip with his swing and miss stuff. His strikeouts per 9 rate is a 6.1. That is a career low for him. 476 fielding independent, about a 462 ERA. So he has really struggled with regards to deep ball, giving up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. And the Braves are still 6th in the big leagues in terms of run creation. It's been a little bit up and down over the last few weeks, but still have a trio of guys: Drake Baldwin, Ozzie, Albies, and Michael Harris, where I'll give you 20 home runs apiece. For Baldwin, about a 360 on base. Matt Olson, he's up to 36 bombs. He's been remarkable. Ron Acuna Jr., since coming off the injury list, is breathing life into the team. Neymar to Mikey Yastrzemski along with Austin Riley, but it's still a really solid team. And on the flip side, for the Minnesota Twins, they do get back Byron Buxton, but with all the injuries, he just has not been himself over the last few weeks. So you do have some question marks there. You've still been able to get good power out of Cody Clemens. He's up to 21 home runs, went deep once again yesterday. Doesn't give you any on base at a 287, but hey, he's been able to hit for the team. Royce Lewis has been much better recently. You do have Brooks Lee up to 18 bombs, and then Lucas Shaw, 360 on base along Trevor Larnach. So these guys have been solid. So it's a fascinating circumstance. I do think that you're going to get runs in this game. I do like the over. I set my total at an 8.8, and on this one for the Braves, I set them at a minus 143, even with Martin Perez doing for some regression. I took them on the money line. 921, 922 is how we wrap things up. The battle for Chicago, as the White Sox, they are going to be on the road against the Cubs, as Luis Castillo is on the bump for the White Sox and Jota Imanaga for the Cubs. We're only seeing a few straight totals out there of an 8.5, over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115, and between a plus 136 to a plus 150, that number on the Southsiders. Meanwhile, for the Cubs, they're anywhere between minus 154 to a minus 162, and plus 142 or better. Sign me up for the White Sox on the money line. Do have to get into the win before we do anything else, because that's always so important with this game, and it is going to be wind conditions blowing in this one. It's going to be a little bit warmer, high 70s temperatures, but the wind should be blowing in the neighborhood of like 6 or 7 miles per hour. It's going to be a little bit more tame towards the back half of the game, but I still set a total of 7.8. I do like the under, even though these have been two guys that have really been giving up the deep ball. For Luis Castillo, about 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. Overall for the season, a little bit of a less than savory just overall line. 496 ERA. His swing and miss stuff is down. He's getting just a hair above 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he is coming off of his best start of the season. Going up against the Cincinnati Reds, 6 shutout innings. He was able to supply 10 strikeouts there, so I liked what I saw on that front. And for Shota Imanaga, in his last 14 starts, he's giving up about 2.2 to 2.3 home runs per 9 innings. Overall for the season, 1.8 bombs per 9, 374 ERA, 456 fielding independent. Again, the wind blowing in should be able to help him out. And for the Cubs, even though they've been so banged up in the bullpen, Daniel Palencia being out of the fold, you've had guys like Kobe Milner and company. The bullpen has been solid. Ryan Zephyrian, ever since they picked him up, he's been able to do a solid job. Ryan Rolson has been able to give you a sub 275 ERA. Same goes for Trent Thornton. They were able to save a lot of their bullpen pieces because Aaron Savali threw yesterday. And for the Cubs, they continue to be a top 3 team in terms of run creation. Peter Armstrong, 28 bombs, about a 375 on base. You've got Seiya Suzuki. I see it with about 20 home runs at a 360 on base. And even these guys that don't hit for the world's greatest average, like Alex Bregman, is up to about a 250 average, 343 on base. You've got a backup catcher in Carson Kelly who's been able to give you about a 350 on base. Same for Miguel Amaya, and he only hits like a 241. Ian App, he's been a little bit hapless recently, but still a 323 on base despite having a batting average of a 214. And For the White Sox, this continues to be a top 10 team in terms of run creation. They've had some big home and roads, but coming off of that massive sweep at the hands of the Tigers on the road. And you've got a trio of guys, Miguel Vargas, Montakamir Kami, along Colson Montgomery, all give you at least 24 home runs this season. Markami and Vargas now up to 28 home runs, and both have been able to give you over 340 on base, even though both of those guys hit below a 240. Sam Antonacci is moving line, 365 on base. Chase Meadroth is up to a 355 on base. Now the catcher spot with Drew Romo and company, that's not been good, but Tristan Peters is sitting at 275. And for the White Sox, this bullpen has really been able to round into form as well. I'd like the pickup of Oscar Brisbane. Had a little bit of a shaky series about a week or so ago, but he's got a sub-3 ERA. Sean Newcomb, Grant Taylor, they've been solid. Hagen Smith, who they just called up, he has been remarkable for this bullpen. Trevor Richards has been able to give you some good long relief. So I do think with the wind blowing in, it's going to suppress the offense. I like the under, so I total 7.8 and plus 142 or better. Sign me up for the White Sox money line, and that'll wrap things up for the Monday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to William Boor, does such great work over at Action Network. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, do have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_D1. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so per usual, please send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. I'm with you guys every single day, giving you picks and analysis on every game every day, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Take care.